That's why I didn't recognize him. You have to catch him early in those tournaments.
Here we go, finally getting the match up. We've got the players on screen, which usually means the map is indeed loading up. Trap versus Bly, and this is going to be an interesting match. This is where we get to see just how far Bly's shenanigans can take him. Down here in the bottom right-hand side of King's Cove, the Blue Zerg player, he is Bly.
An aggressive player, one that can get under your skin if you let him. And in the top left-hand side, one of the players that some of those StarCraft II hipsters believe to have one of the best chances to make it through. It's the Red Protoss, Trap. He is supposed to be an absolute monster right now.
Yeah, he's one of those Protoss players who doesn't quite have the legacy of someone like his Stats or his Zest or something like that, but he's always just below that level. He's performing very well. Has had some memorable performances here at IEM as well in the past. And wow, big surprise. Drone going straight across the map there. A little simulant drone with its robot disc claws. But I don't think it's going to be using those to attack anything. I think it's probably just going to be turning into a hatchery inside trap space.
You block me, I'll block you.
Oh, he's hiding it for
but he
now.
pauses. Oh, maybe the... No, okay. I was going to say maybe the push.
He was going to just hide it to the last second when he has the cash. Trap reacts a little bit slow there, didn't get the block down. If you do micro that probe around, you can block the hatchery. Instead, now has to pull extra workers to make sure that doesn't get up. Actually sends two of them back and goes for the chrono boost on the Zealot, the second pylon to avoid the supply block. Again. Yeah.
I mean, this is the sign that you're entering into Bly's game, right? Like, we always kind of give Koreans all the credit. We're like, oh, he pulls exactly 4 probes. That must mean he knows exactly what the right number is. You can kind of see he's actually weirded out by this. He's like, I don't know. I think the Zealot should be enough with 2 probes. No, I guess it's not enough, so let's bring 5.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of disarray.
Bit of indecisiveness pulling the probes away, then sending them back. The question is, what is the follow-up? And keeping this probe alive is huge, but he's actually mis-microed it a little, and its shields are gone. That probe is going to go down. Yeah, that's the scouting gone on that side of the map. Evo Chamber does go after the hatch cancel happens. So very nicely done here by Bly, just keeping the delay up. And there is now an Adept on the way. Trap still on 1 gas. He wants to put this Nexus down, and he does almost have 400 minerals ready. Bly here, he's going to cancel at the very last second. Gets back most of those minerals. And the Nexus is going to go down. The drone going to go for a scout. Hatchery down on the 3rd base. Bly has successfully made the openings weird.
Yeah, that's what Bly wants for sure. And it has gotten there, as you just said. So this drone should be chased back with this Adept inside the base, not allowing it to drop another hatchery. Another hatchery would be really weird at this point in time.
Yeah, it would be very Bly. It isn't going to happen. Of course, that is going to go down. There's still Zerglings out on the map. Robo goes down in the main base. Now, one problem we've seen in the past games is players not walling off quick enough and Bly getting a bunch of Zerglings in, getting kind of crazy from there. But I got to say, this time around, Bly says, I've Nidus Wormed a lot already this tournament. And I'm not 100% sure he's going to be doing it again here. With that second gas already down, he is starting to drone up a little bit. I'm kind of feeling Mutalisks here, maybe just to change it up. I'm probably crazy. He's probably just going to Nidus Worm Link Queen, let's be real.
Right.
But I don't know why. I'm just kind of smelling like he might change it up and do something a little bit...
More Lings?
Yeah, a little bit unsuspected.
So?
Yeah.
I'm thinking Nidus, my man. In the Ukraine, if it ain't broke, you not fix it. There's no reason why not.
Yep, you got to check Trap, right? Wait till Trap stops it, and then he can maybe change it up. Makes perfect sense. Lots of Queens, lots of Lings. This Adept, has it managed to scout that natural? I don't know. These Lings really want to shut that vision down. Is he going to see in time? Trap wants to get vision. Nice micro on that Adept, and he's going to go. He sees no natural, and he says, okay, you're only on 2 bases. Immediately at home, he's already got a shield battery, which had already been started, and Immortal is on the way.
But where? Where's the shield battery?
Yeah, I mean, we've noticed how Bly and these other Zerg players, they do the Nidus in the corner of the main. If that gets stopped, they do it in the back of the natural, and the Immortal can't be in both places at once, right? We already see Zealots warping in, one of the highest damage units. You can see Trap knows what he's up against. He knows he just needs to survive. He's not even building probes right now, just Immortals in production. The first Nidus Worm going down in the back of the natural, and Trap immediately pulling units to defend.
And I think they'll get here in time. The Immortal is actually going to get there. Maybe it finishes, but not a lot of units should be able to pop out of this.
There's not a ton of transfuses. I think there's maybe 2, at most 3 transfuses ready. So even if it does finish, he can only keep it alive for a few extra seconds. Just 1 or 2 more warp-ins of Zealots, and Trap should have enough units to fight anything that pops out of this Nidus Worm. Bly here is being stopped in his tracks. He's starting to pop the Nidus on the outside. He's going to use that, I think, to get the Queens to come down, start harassing the wall, breaking through there, and keep hitting inside the main.
I mean, he just started 6 drones as well, which is essentially the white flag of this kind of a timing attack. Maybe at best, like you said, he does go after that wall, but now there's multiple Immortals out there. There is that shield battery, and as time goes on, that style specifically of the Nidus, where it's Lings and Queens and not backed up by things like Roaches and Ravagers, I don't like the potential for it to do that much, neither does Bly, so he's going to back out of there, go immediately into Infestation Pit, and get scouted right away. And I got to tell you, one of the big differences between the Korean Protoss and basically everybody else is if they say, you tried a timing attack, it didn't work, and now I'm scouting you to a tech switch, I add 3 or 4 or more gateways, a Warp Prism, and you just die. And I think that's what's exactly going to happen here.
Yeah, I mean, you're thinking here as Bly, he's going to counter the Swarm Hosts. Let's go Mutalisk, because, you know, whatever counters the Swarm Host probably doesn't shoot up. Guess what? Does manage to deal with a Spire switch. It's just going across the map and killing your opponent. As you said, Jeff, just moving over their Immortal Sentry Stalkers here. They're going to clear out this Nidus Worm at the 3rd base, and with those gateways on the way, this is a very scary army. There's no way that Spire gets ready. More drones in the production tab and Overlords.
Yeah.
I think Bly is realizing what's happening far too late. Okay, he's going to Nidus Worm the main base and try to get some sort of base trade situation to go on. This could be a good way to buy himself the time.
Yeah, if the Zealot was on hold, that would have been so bad. And this is okay. Bly can do something weird here. He has to be honest with you, because everything he's doing other than this is not going to do that much. So here comes that Nidus.
There's only 2 Queens inside it. Bly realizing his Lings are all out of the map right now. He's going to evacuate his drones from the 3rd base, staying flexible as always.
But there's no spines or anything.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to have Lings inside the base right now, but his Lings are out of the map. Finally, his Lings are going to be able to unload into that base. But look at this, just holding onto the natural is Trap. Trap's going to recall a bunch of units. He leaves some on the other side, snipes the expansion, and says, let's just make sure I don't die.
And then oddly, he probably could have used that Nidus right there, but decided not to. He's going to go with the main base. Now he's force field outside of it. That is surgical play by Trap. He's going to go ahead and cipher off a few of those Queens. The Lings are not doing much.
Yeah,
and the shenanigans have had the door closed on him.
Yep, and those Zerglings are going to be down in the natural. They get 1 or 2 probes. 1 or 2 probes not enough when you're 1 base Zerg versus 2 base Protoss. I feel like Todd is chanting from the other room right now, Luca di Supply, because Bly is just being blocked at every turn. Trap just played a really good game. The early Immortal has always been the one thing we see lots of players going for. Most of them haven't been able to stop the Nidus Worms. Here on this map on King's Cove, I think the distance between the main and the natural, not quite as far. The movement was perfect from Trap. Trap now, look at the way he's hedging his bets. 2 Stargates, a Twilight Council, an Observer, and another Hallucination Scout.
Why not?
This is the, let's make sure I can't die to anything except having no unit in my wall.
It's going to make it ugly. Yeah, I feel like his standing army is good enough to win the game for the next, 5 minutes, basically.
Yeah.
But even as that is the case, this is a little bit sloppy here, and Bly is going to take every inch that he'll be given. There's not a lot of anti-air here, so I know that's where we begin to be like, but Jeff, can't he just do it with enough units? I'd say yes, but he's only just now making a 2nd and a 3rd hatch. And that kind of production equates to this. That's the Air Force.
Yeah, the sentries destroy this number of Mutalisks alone. Not to mention there's 2 Stargates, and they can start chrono boosting Phoenix. In fact, 2 Phoenix are already almost on the map, so Trap here has played a very good game, and despite not having the unit in the wall there for a moment, I mean, Bly is going to force mistakes. He forces you into a weird, unpracticed zone where there's lots of kind of figuring out your responses on the fly. There's going to be a detail here or there that gets missed. Those 12 probes, though, that came way too late to really affect the outcome of this game. Trap has looked solid as a rock throughout, and I mean, we mentioned how Bly, he's kind of just going to keep trying to build until it gets stopped, and Trap stopped it.
Yeah, it's gotten stopped. And now those mutas are going to show up. Again, this is a weird, scrappy game, so they're going to find a few kills here, but the 4 Phoenix are already too much.
Yep.
And Bly, sometimes a little bit of a stubborn player in that he'll stay in a game that perhaps he shouldn't. This is the upper bracket, by the way, so it's not elimination, so,
I have seen Bly, come back with, 1.5 base Broodlord before. It doesn't happen a lot, but there are some obscene comebacks that he makes happen. So I get why he stays in these games. He's always looking for these angles. And this is part of why he, with his style, he's always got these kind of weird little gambles and ways of throwing his opponent off. And sometimes they really catch his opponent off guard. So he's an expert at base trades. Yeah. He's an expert at playing from behind. And he's going to look for those mistakes from his opponent. He basically says, look, this costs me nothing. I stay in the game a few minutes longer. I look for those high-risk scenarios, the base trades. If you don't fall for them, no worries. We hop into the next map with a clean slate. And that's indeed what's going to happen here. These Mutalisks do nothing. GG.
As Pig said, if you give this mouse a cookie, he'll try for anything, but there's nothing to be given there as Bly is going to tap out. So Trap with the surgical, if not a little bit messy and strange, but that is how you slam the door on that Nidus play. If they don't get the first 2 or 3 Nidus up at all, and there's no damage being done, there's no units inside your base, they're just back there, and we could have drawn attention to it, but if you look at the production tab, he's not building drones, he's not even really building additional queens. And then it gets weird from there, right? Like, he finally does get the Nidus up, but as Pig pointed out, there weren't even Lings to go in there, so it was like 2 queens came out of it, and he's like, I don't know, I was just kind of stuck on this idea. It is an all-in of sorts.
Maybe if those Lings weren't out on the map but were ready to counterattack with the Nidus, I don't think he thought there was going to be such a crisp, immortal kind of 6-gate counterattack out of Trap, and there was not much at home when that kind of reactive Nidus, right? He said, look, Nidus isn't all in, it isn't going to work. But once Trap moved out his army on the map, there was the ability to get that in. He ended up basically just doing lost mining time. Whereas if those Lings immediately popped out, you at least snipe the main Nexus or force a recall immediately. It's one or the other. And then suddenly, hey, you're up at your Swarm Host and Mutatech. You've got your second base alive. You've got a third base up. You can start scrapping together a game. You might not have upgrades, but you've got a set of high-tech, open to you. You can go into drastically different tech paths. And these are the sort of unit comps that Bly plays as well, right? Mutalisks, Swarm Hosts, these units that create these really weird situations. The Protoss can't defend those just with stock standard play. He's forced to do things like 2 Stargate Phoenix.
Well, it gives you a chance to win a game that otherwise, a lot of players would have just left, right? Like, when your first 2 or 3 Nidus just don't get in, you can actually leave with that situation. I know that's probably a little bit too ambitious for how big of a tournament this is. You got to give yourself any chance you can, but you could. So now Bly is sitting at 0-1 here against Trap. Trap, who's been looking pretty, I don't want to say unstoppable because it's still early in the tournament, but he's just been looking, to use your word, crisp, right? He's just been playing very, very well, very clean, other than the unblocked hole in the wall, I suppose.
And he has dropped a couple maps so far, which I think is actually healthy for a player early on in the tournament, And they're not bad players either. It's a Goblin and a Live. So he's actually beaten 2 very good players so far. If he can get through Bly, that is the easiest way to qualify rather than getting down in the depths of the lower bracket. But we are going to see what happens in map number 2. It's going to be a regular map here, Kairos Junction. Up here in the top left-hand side, in the blue, it's Bly.
And his opponent coming all the way from Korea to fight in this open bracket and try to make their name. It's the Red Protoss Trap. One of the hotter hands over in Korea. A lot of people talking about him. We were doing a pre-game show on the Pylon Show talking about these players and who we think can do really well. A lot of people, StarCraft hipsters, I would say, is the hardcore fans, if you will, very much so keen on Trap. They think he's very
Gemini and his 7 ult accounts, yes.
All of them, yes.
Definitely a big fan of Trap there. And we are going to see the Probe and the Drone having a little bit of a battle down here. Nice block by Trap. Does end up committing to the Pylon. And of course, that's not really a cost to block at that moment. As long as you cancel it before your Nexus would normally go down, you only lose about 25 minerals. So there's not really any opportunity cost because you've already got the gateway and the gas down. So nicely timed by Trap. That's why he delayed the Pylon until he'd got the gas down. Ends up canceling it and does let the hatch go down. So it's a pool gas hatch opening for Bly. Seems to be what he enjoys doing. Likes pressuring with a few Zerglings off it and going from there. It's going to be the full 6 Zerglings. And it is going to be Cybercore before Nexus for Trap, realizing that can come very early on. I think he wants to skip the Zealot, but I don't know if that's the best idea. These Zerglings from Bly tend to get across the map very, very fast.
I love this kind of opening from Bly as well. I think it plays to his image very well. If you go gasless, which not very many Zergs do these days, but it does happen from every time to time, you kind of eliminate possibilities. And with Bly, I think that's something that would play against him. He's not the most amazing speed. Doesn't have the best mechanics, but what he does have is the willingness to do these crazy builds that that if you're not ready for, you could just lose, no matter how good you are.
I mean, I remember kind of tuning in partway through with the Drogo series earlier, and I was like, why did Drogo expand to this terrible third base? And then I realized there was burrowed units blocking all the other options. Bly forced him to take this third base out in the open. This giant Ravager attack later on managed to capitalize on that, and that's exactly what Bly is looking for. He knows how he can capitalize on it. We've got Burrow on the way, we've got Roaches on the way. It's going to be a burrowed Roach rush of just 16 workers here. The Ling's already creating some chaos, and it's not like they're racking up the kills, but this is distracting. It's keeping the Adept at home. Trap is not getting a chance to see these Roaches waddling their way across the map. The Ling's being so annoying, and this is fantastic multitask by Bly. He's just trying to create problems.
Yep. It doesn't seem like much, and with a player like Trap, you'd be thinking, oh, come on, if it's just taking some action, that's not that big of a deal, but it can be. Now, that being said, one of the natural predators of a burrowed Roach timing attack would be a Robo first opening, which is kind of funny, right? Because before this tournament, at least, if you would have asked me, I would have told you every single Protoss and their mother opens up Stargate, because that's just what you have to do. But so far, a lot of these Protosses are favoring Robo first, I think because of the Nidus meta.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen the power of a lot of different Robo timings. They're really good against Swarm Host play. They're really good against Nidus play. Now, these Roaches are already here. Trap caught by surprise. His Adept already going down. He's had to rally his sentry to the outside of his wall because he can't let it get anywhere near those Roaches. Those shield batteries on the way are doing well, but I feel like Bly just has to get inside that main base.
And the sentry's in trouble here as well.
Yeah.
Does get off that critical force field, but it's just going to delay the inevitable a little bit here. Shield battery finishes, but the Stalker gets sniped just before it. And the wounded Roaches are now burrowing. It's going to be an Immortal first, but the kind of funny thing about that is while it's amazing against these Roaches, it cannot actually detect them when they're below ground, so this attack's going to be sustained for a while.
And remember, this is not completely all in. Bly's got workers coming out behind this. He's got to do a lot of damage, but I think he's already found it. I mean, these probes are trying to run to get down to the safety of the shield batteries. Trap's down at just 16 workers. That one Stalker working overtime to try and deal some damage here. The Roaches just one-shotting these workers, and that's just too much damage. Bly here getting the Zerglings in. I mentioned earlier how not having a Zealot out, not having your wall ready can be a big problem against Bly. And he's shown us exactly one of the many, many reasons why. If he can distract you with the Lings and you don't see this coming, once he's in your base, you are in huge trouble.
This Robo actually might die, and that's actually all the tech. He's going to give up on the idea of killing that. It's probably the right call.
Yep.
Even just the missed mining time here in the main is devastating, but of course you can see that number on the lower left-hand side, 18 probes dead. It's 14 to 32 workers. And there is at no stage of the game where we say, well, that's kind of normal. No, it's not. It's devastatingly bad for our Protoss. The Zerg's the one with the explosive production, and it's going to be trapped. The other bad thing here, too, with the Robo is it's not a snowbally tech, right? You don't get out a second Immortal and a Warp Prism and off of this low econ all of a sudden threaten to win the game. You need to add gateways. You need to add sentries and more Immortals. Stargate tech, DTs, shrines, that kind of stuff, it can have some comeback potential, but I don't see it here for Trap. He's just got to grind out a longer game.
Yeah, like the Prism is like his attempt to get the counter damage on, right? Hey, if we get an Immortal or two in the Warp Prism, we can go and do something, but this is so many minutes away, and every second that goes by, we're seeing that exponential economic growth of Bly. The third base is almost finished. The Queen count getting up. He's getting defense, he's spreading Overlord vision, and his economy is blossoming. Meanwhile, Trap is slowly trying to crawl out of the gutter. I mean, his economy, his naturals healthily mining, his main has almost nothing going for it. Trap needs to play not only perfectly, he needs Bly to maybe fall asleep at the keyboard a little bit to get back in this one. He's going to move across the map with the Prism. Doesn't actually bring the Immortal with it. He's leaving that at home for defense.
Yeah, which makes me think this is almost a scout/fake. It's kind of like, hey, did you buy the fact that maybe... No, I was just about to say, but...
2 Adepts. I mean, it's basically a scout
harass
with a little bit of tickling, you know? The Tickle Squad coming in, these 2 Adepts. They can, of course, do the Adapt clap on those workers, but Roaches and Lings already on top of them, and they're going to get a single worker kill. Meanwhile, the March of the Queens is here. It's a slow march, but it is a very dangerous and frustrating march. By the time they get to your base, they have a lot of Band-Aid transfuses ready. They can just kind of slowly break down your wall. There'll be tons of Ravagers and Lings. And Trap's going to try and defend with, what, 2 Immortals and a Stalker and 2 Shield Batteries.
Yeah. And this is why sometimes you're just so far behind that it can kind of become a math equation. Like, what do you do here? I mean, the 2 Immortals going on 3, that's a good start. The Warp Prism, again, good micro potential if it comes back home. Shield Batteries, those are all the things you need necessary, but there's actually just so much outdoor. And the Ravagers and the Queens outrange a lot of the stuff at that wall, in which becomes critical structure as well, because it's all of its production. The damage is too much.
Yeah, this is one of those scenarios where definitely it's something where Trap needs to use the defensive setup as best he can. I mean, he recognizes he's in a defense simulator sort of scenario. He's got an observer on the way. He desperately needs more Immortals right now. That's the biggest, most important thing right now. These Immortals and Stalkers hanging back, trying to build more gateways. A couple of sentries, always a good choice here in case the Lings do flood in once the gateway and the core go down. The Immortals are going to go forward and have a little bit of a poke back and forth, but those Biles so deadly, always going to force these Immortals to withdraw.
Yeah, I like the call, though. Those Ravagers are not getting healed just yet, so the Immortals are going to try to do what they can. If they sit back, you're literally just going to lose 2 gateways in the Siren's core for free. So it's not like I'm about to say, like, this is going to work and oh my god, what an incredible move, but he has to take these little risks. He has to do some aggressive stuff that normally he would not like to do because otherwise he just dies.
Yeah, this is so rough right now. I mean, the Adepts are going to come in and get 2, 3, 4 kills. Even saves both of them. Sick control by Trap. Just looking so good even in such a bad scenario. Unfortunately, his whole wall-in has been depowered. He's supply blocked. But you know what? This is probably as good as the last 2 minutes could have worked out for Trap. Holds onto the natural. This has been a massive investment from Bly. Bly hasn't really kept committing. He's gone back to roach speed, adding a few more drones now. And as long as Trap can keep picking away these units without actually taking any losses, this is good for him. It means there's no other threat. There's no Mutas, there's no Swarmers, there's no Nidus. This is just a Ravager Ling headbutt. And whilst Bly has an extra base, he has no extra workers. He's not really using the base advantage. Trap technically can claw his way back into this game very slowly.
All right, Warpers makes his way over here. This would be the beginning of some kind of counter punch here. He's got to be careful, though. Losing any of these units would be just devastating. Oh my god, the Warpers. I think it's okay, but geez Louise, he got close. Now, double Stargate behind this pig. What do you think about that tech switch?
Yeah, I mean, he thinks Mutas or Swarm Hosts are coming. In fact, it is going to be the Swarm Hosts, and Phoenix can deal with both of them. Well, the first Immortal did just fall there, I believe, by the way, so has taken... No! Okay, he did actually save that inside the prism.
Well...
Yeah, we've got 2, one in the deep orange, one in the deep red. So a bunch of Immortals there. I mean, there's no Twilight Council, I don't believe, so it's just unupgraded Stalkers and Sentries. He can deal with the ground army now. And here comes the 8 Swarm Hosts, and that's where if he can get like 6, 8 Phoenix on top of them, maybe he kills the Locust before they can swoop.
Some ifs, ands, and buts in there, but that's where we're at with Trap right now.
Yeah.
Phoenix can also pick up the Swarm Hosts themselves, of course, and if it is just minimal Queen coverage, then you can win the fight that way as well.
Hey,
going
nice.
for a 4th base canceller, should get it.
Juicy.
Just the 1 Queen. Now, the other ideal here would be show off this Swarm Host tech, because if you can see that coming,
yeah,
then it's a lot better as well as a defense.
Yeah, so far has just seen the Roach Ravager. We've got flyer attacks on the way as well for those Phoenix. Trap adding a Forge. There are burrowed units blocking all of his potential 3rd base locations, by the way. Single Zerglings all over. They'll provide some nice vision as well, but these Phoenix coming forward, and this is going to force Bly to send his Queens off creep to escort these Swarm Hosts. Bly, of course, not really focused on spreading creep in every direction, just forward through the middle. He just wants an attack path. He wants to get over there. His Roaches and Ravagers do come quite far forward here, trying to use those Vials, of course, to punish the Phoenix lifts. And, ooh, Trap does lose a Phoenix, doesn't get the Ravager. Nice micro by Bly. Trap here, he's trying to buy time. He's going to come forward with the ground army and see what he can achieve.
And here comes that first wave of Locusts. And as you had said, the Phoenix can start to work on this. Yep. The Locusts are already looking to maybe land here. They do just that.
Yep.
Kind of winning space in this case, not really fighting, right? Like they get to the top of this ramp.
They do bait out a few force fields. The Phoenix are going to come forward and once again try and pick off these Ravagers. These Ravagers just keep on taking damage. The Transfuses are going to go down. The Phoenix lifts are big. The Biles land, but not actually taking out many of the Phoenixes. Huge lifts all over the place, but so many Roaches collapsing. One of the Immortals has gone down. There's still 3 Immortals standing strong in the back of this army. Is it enough? It looks like the Queen count is actually getting whittled down here. Can he win that war? Yes, but will there be enough lifts left over afterwards is the question, because that's a lot of Roach Ravager.
The Corrosive Biles, they're going to land on the warping and use the 3 Immortals hold strong, but now the Swarmers show up, and the Phoenix still shooting those Locusts out of the sky, and as you had said, there's not a whole lot of anti-air coverage. One Hydralisk coming over to show him that there is going to be somewhat of a tech switch over there, as Bly is making his way towards Hive. He's sitting on 59 workers as well, by the way. He's going to lose quite a few of these Swarmos, and all of a sudden...
This is sick.
This is so sick. The Phoenix is a lot.
He is fighting right now, and I can tell you guys, he doesn't really believe that he can win this game, but he is going to fight every inch of the way and force Bly to work for it, and he has actually gained some ground. I can only imagine the units lost tab. The problem, of course, is the income disparity. With the fourth base up, 59 workers there to just 45. Trap's income's getting smaller and smaller. His main base is mining out. His natural mineral patches are also starting to get low. Trap's income is just not that great with Zergling still burrowed. There is so much onus on these Phoenix doing huge damage.
And they are able to fight out in the map and kind of do that, but as you had just pointed out, the economy is just so in disarray in terms of how equal they are that they're going over to pick up drones, but then he'd like lose 2 Phoenix or even 1 Phoenix. And even the pickups are like kind of weirdly expensive for him because this is his life right there on the screen. That is what he has as an advantage over his opponent. Well, he's saying, I've got such a desperate situation that even with just the 3 Immortals, he's going to add a 4th and just go for it. He's not even trying a 4th Nexus right now.
Yeah, he's just going to warp in a few more Sentries and Zealots. Doesn't even have a Warp Prism right now. He's like, let's just go. Hopefully, he's saying, I can pick up all the Hydras, kill them very quickly. The Immortals and the Sentries can deal with the Roaches, and then I can just kind of do it that way. So he's envisioning a way of winning this with a clear, simple timing attack. What he's going to do here is go in, take out a bunch of Overlords, try to slow down the build-up. Now, there is a Phoenix about to pop. A Viper about to pop. It's popped out at the natural third. The Parasitic Bomb is the goal. He wants to get enough energy to do 1 Parasitic Bomb in the middle of the Phoenix, and that can be a game winner in of itself. 123 Army supply for Bly, just 95 for Trap.
You know what? I think Bly actually has a burrowed unit at the 3rd base, by the way. So he knows that this is a 2-base Protoss, which again just means basically just keep adding army. You don't need to add drones. You don't need to even really tech up here. You just need to add army. We're going to have a fight, and there's just not going to be enough on the ground for Trap to win this fight.
Yeah, I think the Hydras have hit the critical mass with the Phoenix, can't do too much. The force field's coming down, separates a few of these units. Now, those Phoenix want to find the flank of these Hydras. They want to find a small number of them to engage into. Parasitic Bomb! Oh, juicy, right in the middle of those Phoenix. They've all taken massive damage. They're deep in the orange. That Viper. Oh man, the Phoenix are so wounded now. And Trap here, he's trying to make a miracle happen. He's still got a good number of force fields. The Bile's coming down. Those Hydras with their groove spines doing so much damage. And the Phoenix dive in, but another Parasitic Bomb lands. And those Phoenix stacked up.
No, they just get absolutely annihilated. A nice fight here from Trap, but there's nothing behind it. If he had a base, if he had a Warp Prism, anything to resupply this, maybe. But he just simply doesn't. That's going to be a warp in right there. But again, Bly knows it's no 3rd base, and that's it. Bly's going to equalize the series, and we're going to Game 3.
Yep. Hey, all right, I like it.
What is he saying?
I think that was him.
He's saying, I like pizzas, and I want pizza. Yeah. A battle there, though.
I think he's a little bit shocked at how much longer that game went, to be honest. Yeah. You know, he was in a very, very good position. And at no point did he lose that lead, but Trap kind of climbed halfway out of the, out of the well. Not all the way, but he got close. He got close. That fight towards the end there, if the Parasitic Bomb wasn't there, maybe that looks a little bit different. If he manages to kind of surprise with the force fields and the army, maybe things do unravel a little bit differently. But as it is, we get a map 3, and that makes me excited because I want to see how Bly shifts. How does he change it up now that we've seen a couple strategies from both sides?
And I think on the flip side, if you look at Trap, there might be some of you, and I think rightfully so, and I think it's fun to kind of enter into this discourse with ourselves, but like, why not take the 3rd? If he would have had a 3rd, he definitely would have had enough income to have a bigger and stronger army. And I understand that thought process, and maybe there's some truth to it, but Trap made the choice and said, I'm so far behind that if I don't capitalize on this Phoenix advantage that I have right now, by the time a 3rd finishes, the Zerg is max, they have several Vipers, their upgrades kick in, because you have to remember, Trap is cutting so many corners. He's not upgrading there. He's not developing any AoE tech or anything like that. Do we really believe he'd get to a critical mass of Immortals? Probably not. So he had to do something at that time. And as we could see with our bird's eye view, probably was never going to be enough. As you said, he came crawling very close. He kind of came out of that big deficit, but he was just put into such a big hole. It didn't seem like it was possible to come out of it.
Yeah, I mean, the surprise Roach Rush, just making the magic happen there, it really teaches you a couple of early Zerglings in your base when you're playing Bly. That needs to set off the alarm bells. You can't just be like, yeah, that's it. It's just 6 Zerglings running circles. It's like, no. There is always a follow-up to it. In that case, it was pretty much the fastest one possible. And, I mean, for people watching at home, they might be like, oh, but how could you possibly defend that? It's actually really funny because you basically just completely wall off with a gateway or a cyber core. Those roaches are going to take so long to get through that. You're going to kill one or two of the roaches with a stalker, your immortal's going to be out, and it's actually really simple if you get either a few more stalkers or an immortal out. The problem is you lose that adept almost instantly. You lose your stalker before your shield batteries are up. So the matter of the Zerg getting in there unscouted, that is what makes that rush. It's not something you can just rinse and repeat here. That was a one-off. Bly's not going to get any more free wins with that. Definitely not against Trap. Maybe later on in this tournament if he can qualify through.
Well, to build off of that a little bit, what I like about it from Bly is that A, it's really weird, right? Not a lot of people are doing that kind of timing attack, but B, even if it's quote-unquote defended, a lot of times you're still doing damage and you're forcing your opponent off their build, so it still kind of makes it a Bly-like game, right? Like, yes, he'd be on 30 drones, which is very few. Yes, he'd have, like, Roach Burrow tech at that time, which is not going to do you any big favors later. But in order to hold it off, you yourself as the Protoss had to do a whole bunch of weird stuff, too. Yeah. So it's like the game just gets weird from there, and Bly is totally comfortable, as you point out in the game, staying at 42, 45 drones and making it into the 15-minute mark and be like, no, that's all I'm doing here. Let's get crazy.
Oh, yeah. He is a tech-based player, you know. He's not someone who builds a gigantic economy and starts going off in many different directions. He's always exceptionally pointed in the angle that he wants to go in order to defend, you know, or take advantages usually aggressively of what he thinks his opponent's going for. We saw him very comfortable rushing to the Vipers against the Heavy Phoenix play saying, I know what stops this. And that's not the immediate response a lot of Zergs would have. You know, they're thinking of the critical mass of Hydras coming out earlier. They're thinking about going up to the Brood Lords and that sort of thing. But Bly is very specialized in his tech choices. It's not the same sort of, oh, let's go for a general balanced composition. It's tailored to his situation in the game.
He'll do mutilating counterattacks. He's one to go ultras in the late game, which is, again, fairly rare. Bly is hard to play against, and he's proving it here as we go into game number 3 with these two right now. This is the upper bracket, which might catch you as a little bit off guard. Pig was talking about this earlier, both Trap and Bly perhaps winning matches that a lot of people thought they might not have won, but here they are.
Indeed, and we are going to be going into that map number 3. This is, of course, one of the upper bracket qualifying matches in Group B. And down here in the bottom right-hand side, in the blue, he is Bly.
That's right, this is the qualifier, isn't it?
Well, the open bracket, I guess we should call it, so...
Well, it's to the top 24, right?
The stage where you qualify through to the top 24, yeah.
Wow.
The most hardcore qualifier you could ever play.
To the relevant times here, Jeff. In the top left-hand side, the red Protoss, Mr. Trap.
Cyber Forest map with a little bit of a shorter rush distance. And most importantly, something I think we might see more Protoss players start to veto against Bly, because that main base. Look at how big that main base is. There is so much space inside this main up to the right. You put a Nidus Worm in the very top right, even if that somehow gets stopped, how do they get their army down to the bottom left to defend behind the natural mineral line? That's what we've seen Zergs taking advantage of in this map. That's the big challenge for Trap.
And I'll tell you what's crazy about that too, which we haven't seen used just yet, because so far it's been Leenock and Bly really leaning heavily on those Niduses, but if you open Robo, which is the answer to that Nidus timing attack, it's not super great against like just a fully flushed out mid-game macro Zerg. So we have not seen Leenock or Bly kind of lean in and say, hey look, minimal lings and a fast lair, what do you think I'm doing? And then all of a sudden the Protoss is cutting corners, like not building probes and chrono boosting out Immortals and parking units 2 or 3 gateways inside their base, which puts a halt on things like upgrades and Twilight upgrades and a third base for themselves, and the Zerg just goes out and does whatever the heck they want, or later goes back to Mutas off that Robotech. You're in a lot of trouble. But again, it's just been actually to the win off the Nidus itself.
And here we are seeing, of course, the early block from Trap, forcing Bly to take the third. Bly taking any excuse to open up with 6 Zerglings, and this time it is going to be a faster Nexus from Trap. So to plug the gap, it's going to be a Zealot early on. Is he going to try and wall off, or is he just going to micro his heart out to defend? I think he's going to let those Zerglings in again. The probe does veer off to the side. And, ooh, okay, just a Zealot and a probe. So he's just going to use kind of mobile combat to defend. And his probe is going to scout across the map. He says, I'll spot it. If there's early roaches coming across the map, I'm going to look for it. That probe's going to come in. 2 Zerglings hot on its tail. The Queen waddling over to intercept this as well, and she will shut down any scouting.
So for the Lings inside the main being very ineffective, but again, this is kind of that thing you were talking about, Pig, where they're like, they're ineffective, but are they buying your attention? Are they grabbing your APM? Are they having you back at home worrying about this? Well, then for Bly, that might be a win. As the Roach Warren's about to finish, Burrow has not started just yet, but it could.
16 drone Roach Speedling all in.
Okay.
Oh my lord, this is gonna hit such an odd timing. This is really old school. Single queen, 6 roaches. He's not going to build anymore. It's just going to be mass speedling, and he's going to morph a few of those into Ravagers as they come across this map.
Oh, Robo again.
I mean, we need to see Trap's vision. He's got 2 shield batteries. Yeah, he's sending an Adept. Is it out? Is his Adept going to commit across the map? He knows Ling Speed was delayed a little bit from the normal gas pool, but Ling Speed is up. He's hunting. He
sees it. Oh, the Lings were chasing, but then they actually backed off.
I mean, as long as this Adept's too late anyway. He's making a sentry at home. Warp Gate is almost done. That Robo is not going to come into play. Trap needs to stop these units from getting inside the base in the first place. This Adept needs info, but so far, there we go, it sees no expansion. He's got a wall off right now back at home. His natural expansion, if this gets busted into, he's going to get overwhelmed too quickly. He has so little damage working for him. Trap knows exactly what he's up against. Bly's going to launch this attack in a moment. Still no complete wall off, but he does have a sentry out.
Oh, the Corrosive Biles don't quite land. He actually spaced it out so the force field can go down, but there's the next Corrosive Bile.
Oh, the shield battery healing. That Zealot holding the door like a boss. Another Zealot does warp in there as well. And already Trap inflicting a heavy tax upon Bly's army. But the shield batteries are down. The sentries are very low on healing. These Corrosive Biles continuing to force Trap back from the wall. Trap can afford to lose a lot of probes defending this. And so far, he's looking very good. 2 more shield batteries.
Another sentry.
Oh, the force field's buying so much time, but there's just so little damage output here for Trap.
The Immortal does step out here, and as the 2 shield barriers finish, if that Immortal can click in with those shield batteries, it could be the defense he's needed. The shield barrier's getting targeted itself.
That pylon, he needs to heal that pylon with the shield batteries.
It's powering everything.
Ooh, okay, I think...
Why he's not targeting it, but it's really just down to that pylon.
That Immortal is not going to go down as long as those shield batteries stand. The probes even adding their tasers to this fight. The Immortal coming forward. Trap's hold has been legendary so far. He even stepped that Zealot back from the Bile, let the Corrosive Bile land on the Zerglings, and that is a hold with just 9 probe losses. He maintains a 6 worker advantage. He has an Immortal on the map. That was an impressive hold.
I gotta say, the choice not to go after that pylon is going to haunt Bly. He's a player who openly kind of talks with Scarlet and some of these other non-Koreans, and I'd be very shocked if they didn't come over and say, yo, man, you were a pylon away from breaking that open. That Immortal with shields is a god. Without shields, Lings get around it and like 2 Ravagers and it dies. And that would have been it. That would have been everything. There's just no DPS over there. But with the 2 shield batteries, it might as well have been invincible. And that's essentially where it stood. So Trap able to hold that. And that was a pretty big all-in. It's game 3, so Bly is going to do what he can. But I mean, it's just, he's in a hole. He's in a bad spot.
Yeah, but he's in a real tough one here. These Stalkers going to clear out the Overlord. And with the Prism out, I mean, if you start Immortal dropping against a 25 drone Zerg, there's not a lot of responses in the how to play ZVP textbook of how you respond to that. And you've got 1 queen at your main, 1 queen at your third, there's no creep connecting it, and you've got a small pack of Zerglings. The Immortals can drop on top of this and simply annihilate the Zerglings in a head-to-head fight. Even though the Zerglings are meant to be good against them, this is just not enough units for Bly. These Immortals are going to be so annoying. And behind it, Trap going into 2 Stargate.
Nah, it's bully time. The Immortals show up and they take every fight they see, right? Like even the Zerglings, like you said, not ideal, but sure, I'll do it. And he's going to go ahead and rock their socks. Queens show up, they're going to show up 1 at a time. Again, not a threat. And this is a tax that's being taken out of Bly that he can't even afford. This is way too much for him. It's also going to reveal tech, right? Like he's going to make roaches to try and defend against this, and those roaches are going to be expensive as well. By the way, behind this, double Stargate Phoenix again, and I love that choice. It's good against everything Bly can do here.
Yeah, Immortals, they're gonna just keep picking away there. Of course, their barriers will be coming back in a little while. Their shields are already regenerated for the most part. They haven't really taken any hull damage to speak of. They're gonna come in that third base, just looking so bare and empty. Bly's looking for a way to defend. Roaches and Zerglings coming in en masse, but Zealots warping in, and Trap here taking advantage of Bly's lack of resources. He committed so much to that Roach Speedling. It didn't quite manage to break through, and now he's trying to shut this down. Bile gonna land on that Immortal. Good surround by the Zerglings. The Queen zoning out the Prism. He might actually be able to take this out. The Prism comes back in, saves 1 of the Immortals. So 1 important tech unit goes down for Trap. Behind it, he's got a solid 2 base economy, 2 Stargate Phoenix, a Forge, and is moving a probe out to take a third base. Bly, on the other hand, is licking his wounds and trying to recover his 1.5 base economy.
Yeah, he's adding a lot more units, which either is adding insult to injury here, or he's going to try to double down on this and hit a weird timing again.
Hey!
Lings things find their way in here.
Isn't that just funny how reliable that is with Bly? He always seems to find a way into these bases. And at the same time, though, the Phoenixes are going to start their onslaught, picking up the Queens. The probes do evacuate. One sentry does fall. The third gets cancelled as well. Bly is so good when he's down and out at finding these little angles to do damage. But there we go. The second wave of Lings does get shut down. Trap says, look, you've got nothing that shoots up. The Phoenix can kill all your overlords. This is where I establish my dominance.
And even though one Spore Caller won't be an answer, right? Like, you can actually just go ahead and pick up drones beneath that for a while if you'd like to. We got a bunch of Overlord kills, so Bly is supply blocked. It's a 30 going on 40 supply advantage for Trap. Yes, the Ling run by was cute. That's something he can almost always do, but he's actually so far behind, and sometimes StarCraft's so cruel that way, right? It's like, what can you do to come back? It's like, well, if you can do that like 9 more times and Trap falls out of his seat,
I think this is the point where you start teaching your Roaches and your Zerglings how to stack on each other's shoulders to try and hit those Phoenix, because there's just nothing that shoots up. He's got like a single Spore Crawler. I don't know how many Queens there are, maybe 1 or 2 right now. Very little anti-air. Trap gonna move out and take another third base. He's up in workers. He's got so many units. His ground army's better. His air army actually exists as opposed to the lacking air army of Bly. Bly has 0 Queens out right now, loses a few more Overlords, is permanently supply blocked, and I mean, Trap here has just played some crisp, clean StarCraft. Yes, he's dropped a map here to the Roach Rush, but overall, this has been fantastic. This has been fantastic ways of shutting down the Nidus. He's been all over defending the front, sneaking that Adept Scout out, absolutely crucial in this game.
Yeah, and Bly is try-harding with a couple of Zerglings right now, but I think this is the harsh reality coming crashing in. He doesn't have much of an answer for those units. They can't fight out in the open. He's tried to make some stack defenses to basically put a dent in these Phoenix, but it's just simply not enough, and any buildings he makes right now hurts him. Go ahead, come down to the low ground and fight this army to try and save your third. If you do, the Phoenix will pick up everything and destroy it.
Yep. Those Ravagers retreat back up the natural. They are just going to sit there. Trap's looking really good, really clean so far. I'm very excited to see what he is going to bring throughout the later stages of this tournament. It's just been awesome, and I also love the choice of the Phoenix there as something which blocks Swarm Hosts and Mutalisks, 2 of Bly's favorite choices. It's such a good way of getting lots of scouting as well. We now see the push coming forward. Guardian Shield. The Phoenix is taking out a few of these Ravagers. He's dodging the Biles perfectly so far, zoning these Zerg units out behind the hatchery. The hatchery already below half-life. Immortals coming in to back this up as well. That hatchery's about to fall. Bly needs to fight right now if he's going to keep that alive, but it is not possible.
Nope, and now he just has to fight, and this fight was never going to go his way. GG is called out, and Trap will take the series 2-1. And like Pig said, it got a little bit weird. There's a cheeky little build there that made it took a win away from him, but otherwise looking crisp, looking clean, looking strong.
Beautiful play there from the Protoss. Shuts down the Zerg shenanigans and is going to be going through to that group stage. Very happy with his performance here. You know, it's such a tough bracket, but Trap made it look not too difficult here. Yeah. And, you know, we do have plenty more games coming up in just a few minutes as well. We're going to give you guys a whole bunch of updates and all the rest. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.